And welcome to today's HFTP ProLinks webinar, Creating a High-Touch Customer Experience with Contactless Business. Today's webinar is sponsored by Certify. I am Barbara Somerero, along with Brittany Brewster, and we are hosting today's webinar. Customers expect convenience every step of the way. New digital best practices made possible with reliable and secure technology give the customers great control and a better experience without having to rely on staff. Our speakers today will present new trends that are giving customers around the world a great journey, even before they arrive. Now, today's speakers are Michelle Young, Senior Vice President, Sales, and joined Certify in January of 2020, and she brings over 25 years of experience selling and marketing global technology solutions to the hospitality, travel, and government lodging industries. Michelle holds a Bachelor of Science in Marketing Business Administration from Illinois State University. Now, Phil Bryan, EMBA, CSM, CSPO, is the Director of Product is a seasoned leader in technology, currently managing Certify's product team in developing complete solutions that give certified customers, their guests, a seamless, secure experience. Phil's passion for technology started as he served as a systems analyst and programmer for the United States Marine Corps. Phil holds an executive MBA from the University of Missouri, Kansas City, and a Bachelor of Science in Information Systems Management from Park University. We're also joined by David Purcell, Vice President Global Products at Infor Hospitality. David's background is a combination of hotel operations, business development, project management, and information technology. At Infor Hospitality, he has worked in several areas, but most notably in the product management, where he oversees the requirements for their suite of projects, including revenue management, sales and catering, food and beverage point of sale, property management, and mobility applications. David holds an MBA from Loyola University, Chicago. I now hand the webinar over to our speakers. Welcome, everyone.
Great. Thanks, Barbara. We appreciate it. Thank you to HFTP for having us today. We're really excited to host this webinar, and we're looking forward to talking about that customer experience, especially in this post-COVID world with everything that's changed. I'm going to move on and talk a little bit about our two companies, and then we'll jump into the content of the program. So a little bit about Certify. We're a hospitality-focused company. We have over 16,000 customers in 135 countries. We're the exclusive provider for digital authorization forms to many of the largest hotel chains globally, including Marriott, Hilton, and Hyatt. We also work with Topgolf, Dave & Buster's, SeaWorld, and other companies and event companies and we provide electronic signatures and payment solutions throughout their enterprises. Our open API allows for seamless integrations to credit card processors and gateways, travel management companies, property management companies, and systems, sales and catering systems as well. I'm here with our Director of Product, Phil Bryan, as Barbara mentioned, and also David from Infor. David Purcell and I have known each other for over 25 years. We like to tell people that we started in the industry when we were 12. This isn't actually the truth. However, we did originally start our careers in hospitality technology together, and we worked at a time in which we would go to lunch and send faxes of all the contracts to our customers. So we actually have followed the digital experience for quite a long time. David, I'd like to hand it over to you and let you talk a little bit about Infor.
Thanks, Michelle. Thank you so much. So Infor Hospitality, we are a company that provides hospitality software solutions to the industry. As Barb had said, I manage the product management side of it, and Infor has products for restaurant point of sale, revenue management, sales and catering, and probably most notably as property management systems. Our goal at Infor is to provide our customers with software solutions that help them deliver exceptional guest experiences. For sure, as Michelle had said, the industry has changed. I'm excited to talk about how we work with Certify and how we take the guest through a digital guest journey long before they arrive at the hotel. And then while they're there at the hotel, how we can provide technology in the hands of guests so that they can interact with as much of technology as they want, or they can make a choice and go the traditional route of stopping by at the front desk and managing all the services within the operation. So that's a little bit about what Infor Hospitality does.
Thanks, David. So the digital first customers are expecting convenience. They're looking for greater control as well. And they're looking for their travel experience to be exactly that, an experience. They're expecting mobile-friendly, personalized, and secure solutions. David, would you like to comment a little bit more about what they might be looking for in this experience?
Yeah, so for sure, you know, with the industry changing, right, the consumer, or in the words of the hotelier, of the guest, they are expecting a lot of self-service. They are expecting to be able to manage a lot of their requests, a lot of their interactions with the hotel from a mobile device. And that can be everything from, of course, their phones to chat to texting. So everything that we do primarily for the guest is in the hands of that person, so that they can interact very easily if they choose to. We also want to make it a personalized experience, right? We want to recognize the guest. We want to be able to, as we'll talk about further on, provide them the services and offerings that are most important with them. There is no sense in offering something if they have no interest then in that. So alongside of the mobile piece, we do a lot of work in the background to know exactly who that guest is and what that they are expecting at the hotel. You can imagine in the hotel world, there's resorts, casinos, gaming, a regular hotel. So all of that is taken into consideration when we attempt to give that guest a personalized experience. We'll talk a little bit more about the security of it all. Certainly on the certified piece, we handle, or they handle the payments. When the guest is checking in, we also have to manage a lot of personalized data, whether or not that's a passport, whether or not that's a credit card or a driver's license. So we just need to make sure that all of that data that we are processing is in a secure environment.
Great. Well, thanks for sharing that. I think that all of that touches on what we want to focus on here today. So meeting digital first demands with digital solutions is what we're going to focus on next. But before we do that, we're going to start with a quick poll. So the first poll question is, what's the most common reason your organization is hesitant to invest in new technology? So these are your options here for answers to that question. Great. Well, as you can see, it looks like budget concerns are probably the #1 reason. And I think that obviously makes a lot of sense, especially coming out of what we all went through with COVID, with a lot of our hospitality properties and venues and restaurants being closed. for a period of time. And also, I think as we move into this new age here and concerns potentially globally and especially in North America around the recession. So thank you all for sharing that. We appreciate it. There we go. I'm going to close out of that. All right. So we're going to move into this next section here. Sorry about that. So we're going to break a little bit about what we're talking about from a digital perspective into the before arrival and then after arrival when they arrive at your property, your venue, your club. So prior to arriving at the property, they're really looking for that seamless digital experience. From an IT perspective, this starts with the integrated tech stack. So I'm going to hand it over to David and Phil here, and they're going to talk a little bit about that since they have that experience in product. Let's face it, I'm in sales.
So let me start. So from a technology side on the Infor side, so when we talk about our technology stack, of course, it is talking about the applications, the APIs that we would integrate with, and all of those integrations that we just know are operating in the background of hotels. From our side of the technology stack, it's really important that we are a mobile first company. So what does that mean? That means that as we develop lots of features and functionality within our applications, and whether or not that's the property management system or the food and beverage system or the sales and catering system, the product management teams do take a lot of time and a lot of effort to make sure that the features and functionality that we are building within that application are also available on the mobile devices, whether or not that's going to be used for the guest or whether or not that is going to be used internally for the housekeeping teams or any of that pieces. So our technology stack is, of course, around the applications, the APIs, but then most importantly, to make sure that anything that we build is now mobile first. So with that, Phil, I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, thanks, David. So thinking about the integrated technology stack, you know, and it's interesting that budget concerns were fresh on everyone's minds. Having the right integrations are important, especially when you're concerned about budgets. But the right integrations can mean less system hopping for your guests. It's important to create a seamless experience for them and a more efficient journey. But even more than that, many have come accustomed to having seamless experiences across many different industries, creating more of a need to impress them with clever new integrations to contribute to that seamless journey for the guests. And for all of you from a technology perspective, like me, who have spent sleepless nights in the past worrying, it can also mean a more secure environment for your guests and your guests' data. And a lot less manual effort for your employees, creating a better experience for them as well.
Great. Thanks, Phil. Thanks, David. Appreciate that. I think we're ready for our next poll question. So poll question number 2 is, how sophisticated is your tech stack? So several options here as well. And as you're voting, as we go through the presentation and webinar today, feel free to pop any questions you might have that you'd like for us to answer or consider at the end of the webinar, and we'll be checking those as we get closer to the end. I think the other thing that we're seeing in the industry, you know, is much more collaboration. I mean, we've always had a lot of integrations with partners. It doesn't matter what company, technology company you work for. Most of the companies are used to that. But I think that a lot of the hotel chains, management companies, travel management companies are really looking for collaboration with their partners today in improving their tech stack and also in being able to prove an ROI. So here are the answers here. Can everybody see those okay?
Yeah, we
Yep.
can. Yeah. Mhm.
Great. So it looks like the number one answer was we're conservative, so we only invest in mission critical applications. I think that was the answer there. We're well optimized and we make regular investments was second. I like, what is a tech stack? I want to know you 9% of you. Maybe you're in sales along with me. Just kidding. All right, great. Well, thank you for answering that poll for us. We appreciate that. Okay, so the second area here in the before arrival process is really looking at digital forms and online booking. And this is another critical component to the pre-arrival guest experience, and became even more so during COVID when everybody was remote and people were very fearful of interacting in person. So what we've noticed in this area is that guests are demanding easy access and secure solutions. We've said that already. Many hotel chains and management companies and the venues and clubs out there are being forced to increase their PCI compliance and overall security due to a variety of fraud that we're all facing on a daily basis. I know we're going through our SOC 2 audit at our company, and we're just going through all the processes that you need to be aware of with all of the phishing and everything that comes your way. So security continues to be a big challenge for everyone in our industry and in every industry at this point. And your guests are really expecting to book their room and their experiences easily from their phone, tablet, or computer. They really want to do this anywhere at any time. GWI, which is a leading market research company, did some stats for consumer stat research for 2022. And one of the things they were saying is that the average business person in North America has between 16 and 24 meetings a day. So we've noticed as we've gone remote, been online, we're having more meetings. Also, 45 to 52% of the recipients or people who answered in the survey said that they were spending more time working in the evening. So again, what they're looking for is, if I'm booking an experience, whether it's for work or for my family for a vacation, I'm looking to do that online. I'm looking to do it conveniently. So digitizing your workflows make it easier to stay compliant. That decreases your fraud by over 90%. We typically find people who are using digital forms and online booking are reducing chargebacks by at least 1 to 2 chargebacks per month, and those can be very costly. The digital forms also allow you to remove paper and fax, those outdated processes, and provide your guests with the security that they expect. If you're asking a guest to send over their credit card on a fax or an email, most of them at this point will not want to do that. And you definitely will have a PCI and a breach possibility there. And you know, also with COVID, what we noticed is as companies were onboarding new employees, they needed to move that to 100% digital experience. So as you onboarded, if any of you changed jobs and moved around, which I know many folks did in hospitality, given all the closures at hotels, what we noticed is that when they came back online, they were having that experience completely in a remote setting. So digital forms and documents and training materials were very important in that as well. Phil or David, did I miss anything there before we move on to the next section?
No, I think you're good, Michelle.
Great. So the next area that everybody's looking into on your side, from a provider and a hotelier, a club manager, a venue manager, and also from a technology perspective, are the flexible, secure payment options. So adding payments to your digital solutions is ideal for your business and your guests. Integrating with the credit card gateway and processors are critical to the success of your digital solutions. And most of you have always done that at the property level, but we haven't always done that online. So as you add flexible, secure payment options, your business can get paid 2.5 times faster when you're collecting those real-time payments, or when you allow your guests to pay based on a contract, maybe scheduled future payments. All of that really adds to your bottom line. It increases your security, and it's much more efficient. You really control the payment process from start to finish, and your guests can pay at any time they would like from their own device. So you can also accept alternative payment types and capture and process payments from one solution. And again, most consumers these days, guests these days, are expecting the capability to offer and pay in many different alternative payment forms beyond just a credit card. So we're going to move on to the next section now, and David's going to take over here. And this is chat functionality.
Yeah, so certainly the more software that you put, of course, in the hands of the guest, if for any reason the guest runs into a problem or they prefer to chat via text, it is critical that throughout that journey of whether or not that is online check-in or booking a reservation or whatever it is, right? That if that guest or that consumer is stuck, you need to have the ability for that consumer to be able to chat online almost in real time with a person that can help them. Certainly, the demographics have changed over the past many years. Guests and consumers are becoming very comfortable with chatting online. One thing that we did on the hospitality side for Infor, not so much on the consumer side, but we decided that we were going to move to a chat functionality for support. So rather than a front desk person or a person there at the hotel having to pick up the phone and call our support lines, we added in just this little chat window. And the amount of percentages of the staff that chose to do chat was enormous, much more than we had anticipated. In that now, 65% to 75% of our chat features or our questions are asked via chat, and it gives us the ability to answer that question in real time. And whether or not that's an actual guest, it could be as simple as asking a question as they're doing the online booking or something like that. But it's really important that any of the applications that you're building out have that online chat.
That's great, David. It's really interesting to see how support has grown over the years, you know, and that efficiency that guests are really looking for.
Correct.
So the final area here is personalization. And I think, David, you were going to start out in this area, and then I think, Phil, you might have a few words to add there as well.
Yeah, so when you are interacting with the guest, and whether or not, of course, we are focused here on the mobile piece, right? Hotels have spent a lot of their marketing budgets in determining the value of that guest, and whether or not that value is based upon the spend, whether or not it is depending upon a loyalty program, whether or not it is depending on how many nights that they have stayed. It's really important that when you are interacting with that guest digitally, that you know them, that you understand them, right? That you kind of have a little bit of background on, well, who is this person? And more importantly, what should I be offering that person? If Michelle was checking in online, we would know a little bit about her. We would know a lot about her past spending patterns, her past preferences. Perhaps she likes donuts or she likes something, right? And the more that you can bring that personalization service into the interaction for the guest, it really creates value, and it creates that sticking point of this is going to create a loyalty guest. So it could be as simple as, I think you might like this. This is what I'm going to offer you, along that line of being very personalized with the guest on a mobile device. Phil, is there something that you wanted to add, Phil?
No, I mean, I think you covered it, David. The only thing that I would say, and this kind of goes back to some of the discussion that we've already had, is, I think the guests are, starting to expect that type of experience from, even from a mobile perspective, the way you describe it. Within other industries and from a technology perspective, they expect you to already, know who they are. You have their information. They've been doing business with you, and we'll talk more about it later. But it also improves the relationship from a loyalty perspective as well. That they, come to expect that experience the way you described it, from a personalization and a mobile perspective, right?
Great. Thanks to you both. We're going to move on to the experience digitally and from a guest perspective at arrival. So the first area we're going to touch on again, which is an extension of their online experience pre-arrival, would be whether the guest stops at the front desk. It's that personalization piece, actually. And it's whether the guest stops at the front desk to check in and get their key, or they opt to go with a contactless check-in. They still want that special feeling. So David, can you talk a little bit about the contactless check-in experience?
Yeah, absolutely. So for sure, as the hotels came out of COVID, right, we did spend quite a bit of time working with our customers to determine what their definition of contactless was. And it came down to, we wanted the ability for the guest to be able to make a choice. Is the guest savvy enough? Are they comfortable enough to do that check-in process completely contactless? Meaning, I'm going to go ahead and use my mobile device to select my room, to put in my credit card data, to do an upsell, to do everything that I would want to do, rather than standing there at the front desk. So it was really important for us to allow a hotel to provide the guest a choice. I don't think that we would ever get into a position that there's not going to be at least somebody there in the lobby to actually help them, whether or not that's a concierge or a front desk person. But when we did the contactless, we wanted for sure to be able to let the guest choose. And it's interesting. Probably today, if a hotel sends that invitation to a guest to be able to choose to do an actual online check-in, about 35% of the guests we are finding will go ahead and take them up on that offer. Now, of course, that's going to be a little bit dependent on the type of hotel, whether or not that's in gaming, or whether or not that's a resort or a regular roadside hotel, right? So it's about 35% of the people who would use that mobile piece. The interesting piece that is not as adoptive is the mobile key. Today, what we are finding in the hotels that use our mobile devices, it's only about 15% of the guests that will opt for not having that key card in their hand, right? They are so comfortable where they're just going to go to their hotel room, do the actual check-in, and hold their phone up to the door, and the door opens and lets them in. So what we wanted to do is, if a hotel chose to let the hotel guest do a contactless up until getting the key, then that was great. We can set it all up so as the guest arrives, they just have to stop by a concierge desk and pick up the key. Or for that 15% of people who are technology savvy, perhaps they can just go to their rooms and use their actual mobile key to access it there. In addition, of course, you have whether or not that's a service, a request, whether or not that's ordering online. There's many things that is a part of that guest experience now for the check-in that we have put, as we say, in the hands of the guest.
Great. The next area that I think you were going to touch on, David, was the table side ordering.
Yeah. So as you go into restaurants now, of course, post-COVID, right? There's no menus, right? You are going to scan a QR code to be able to get the actual menu. So we have, along with our restaurant point of sale, whether or not that's a kiosk or whether or not that's tableside ordering. If you're in airports now, a lot of the food service is all tableside ordering, right? So again, it is taking that guest journey, whether or not I'm traveling, whether or not I'm there, of course, at the hotel. It's being able to use technology, right, that allows that guest to interact with the tableside ordering for the food. And if you're going to give the actual guests that opportunity, then it is critical on the back end to make sure that the hotel or that specific facility can maintain a service level. But for sure, we've seen a lot of increase on the tableside ordering. Again, that goes back to also sometimes there's just a staff a shortage, right? Everyone has, I think, struggled with the hiring folks, and the more things that you can let the guests do kind of on their own, it's a value for both the guest if they choose that, and the hotelier or a restaurant person on staffing levels.
Yeah, one of the other things I've noticed too, as I've traveled more recently, if you're in a limited service or a property that select service that maybe doesn't have a big kitchen, it's integration into other restaurants around the area where you can order from your room, from your phone, put in your room number, and they can bring it to you. So I think it's great the way the industry's been really creative on this.
Yep.
The next area that we are going to focus on is the payment mobility piece as you arrive on property. In today's digital world, it's critical that your technology is mobile ready. Your employees and your guests both are expecting that. And what we want to do, as we've said before, as a guest, from a guest perspective, from a traveler perspective, is to be able to pay from any place at any time, to be able to use my device to pay, to be able to check out. David, I'm not sure if you all have the stats on mobile checkout, but I'm sure they're much higher than the check-in, right? Nobody wants to go to the front desk.
They are exactly right. So of course, the mobile check-in is probably the highest utilized component within the mobile piece. It's fast, it's easy. The guests can get a copy of their folio, right, or their bill. They can see it, of course, online. And the guests of today, they just assume that I don't have to go at the front desk and check out, right? The people, who I would travel with years ago, you actually have to go to the front desk and you have to get your folio and all that. Now it's just common for them to leave. So that really takes us into making sure that as that final bill is settled, it's critical that all of that payment is secure, right? I talked about that. And if you talk to the IT folks at the hotels or in the hospitality industry, that's one of the things that keeps them up at night is, making sure that the systems that they are using are secure. They are dealing with lots of credit cards every day. And we just need to make sure that all of that is in a secure environment. For sure, the check-in or the checkout is probably the most utilized mobile app.
Yeah, and I think we've really hit on this throughout this discussion, whether it's pre-arrival or at arrival. The last area we had here was that mobile readiness. And I don't know that I would have anything additional to add. Phil, do you have anything that you would add that maybe David and I didn't cover already in this section?
No, I don't think so. We do have some more topics later on, though, that I think will touch on this as well. And I think David covered it pretty well.
Great. So the ROI, right? One of the things you said in that initial poll was the biggest concern was budget. And it's really important to look at what the ROI is on any technology that you invest in. I'm sure many of us have been on the wrong side of making a challenging technology investment, and having to manage that throughout your organization. So one of the things that I think any good partner in the industry that's providing technology to you should be doing is helping you with that ROI. What is the value to your business? And how do you pay for these personalized digital experiences? David, do you want to touch on a few of the items we have listed here? I know you have several comments on this.
Yeah, so for sure, I think we already touched on the customer retention, right? If you can create a loyalty program and you can recognize that actual guest, anything you can do to make sure that that guest is going to return, it's certainly much more. It's much more cost effective if the guest continually returns than having to use your marketing dollars to go out and find, of course, an actual new guest every time. The increased revenue comes in when you can really focus on that offer that the guest has the propensity to actually purchase, right? So this goes back a little bit to what we refer to as machine learning. The example I use for the actual service back to Michelle was of the donuts. Whether or not that is something that you give at no cost as a preference or a perk, hotels are using those very effectively once they know who the guest is. The increased revenue comes in where if I know they have a likelihood to purchase something, it's all about getting the right offer to the right guest at the right time. And whether or not that is an upsell into a different room type, whether or not that is a breakfast, whether or not that's any of those services that you are providing at the hotel, the actual guest, you want to be able to present the guest with options that they have a likelihood to actually purchase. And we even went down the path of determining how many offers that we should give a guest at any given time. And the magic number that we came up with, talking to our customers and talking to the marketing folks in the industry, was three offers. Okay, if you go beyond that many offers, the guest has a tendency to get confused and they will just swipe right past them. So that's really important, that you want to limit the number of offers and you want to make it very personalized so they have a propensity to purchase that specific item.
That's David, if I could just jump in really quick, that's interesting. That's that. And I think it makes sense. I wanted to say one other thing about increased revenue. One of the things that we notice in the digital authorization, form, signing, and payments world is that reduction of chargebacks also increases your ongoing revenue.
Correct.
So it's really important to be able to address any potential fraud and make sure you're not accepting those reservations pre-stay, and you have the secure forms there. So I just wanted to add that as well before you move on.
Nope, that's great. Thanks. And then the lower costs, of course, it comes in where if you have that digital journey, right? So if a guest does then offer or take up your offer, then inside the hotel, of course, you actually have to be able to fulfill that offer, and the technology helps us there, right? If the guest is ordering something now online, I can automatically send that to a room service person. So that actual operation costs, anything to do with the technology and just streamlining and getting the right people involved in order to fulfill that specific offer is a bonus. The staff training, our typically in the past, you would sit down and you would learn of the application, whether or not that's taking a reservation or doing a check-in. The staff training has all changed. Hotel or the staff now, e-learning is huge. Self-paced learning is huge. The staff training via the e-learning allows the hotelier to be able to put programs online. The staff can do it self-paced. And more importantly, there could be questions and a certification at the end. So even in the hotel world, if the staff is fulfilling the learning, then the management team can be certain that, yep, this staff member has passed and they are ready to go at the front desk or in the housekeeping area, whatever they are using the e-learning for.
That's great. I know,
Yep.
Phil, you had some thoughts too.
Yeah, hey, thanks, Michelle and David. I was going to jump in here. Just thinking about return on investment and all of these topics to create a competitive advantage, and especially from a product perspective, we have to analyze where we're going to get the most out of our investment in each of these technology opportunities that we're discussing today. So that they can bridge the gap in the experiences that they are providing versus maybe others in the industry. We all want to gain more loyalty from our guests. And in order to do that, it's important to ensure we are using technology efficiently and effectively to stay in touch with our guests, providing a great guest experience and ensuring that they will want to return time and time again, which in the end, helps us ensure that we're getting return on our investment and creating a competitive advantage as well.
For sure, that's great. We have another poll here, and so let me move on to that. Poll number 3, in your experience, what's the primary factor that leads to a technology investment at your organization? I feel like we should have some Jeopardy music here, but we don't. And I will save you from my humming.
It's probably a good thing that we can't vote on these as panelists as well, right?
That's
I
right.
can certainly influence some of these answers.
I will also say that if anybody provides me free donuts in the room, I love social media. So I will be posting that on every outlet. And that also will increase your revenue because everybody will know that you gave me the free donuts. I'd even be willing to pay for the donuts. All right, so it looks like we have quite a few votes here. So in your experience, what's the primary factor that leads to a technology investment at your organization? Creating a better customer experience, which is awesome.
Yeah,
that's the most important thing, right? And then a lot of these other items following that come into play. And again, just quick reminder, if you have questions you want to ask for the end, you can feel free to put them in the chat. So what's coming next? Here are our predictions. Your trusting staff here on the webinar is going to provide their thoughts. David, would you like to start us out here?
Yeah, so, yeah, for sure. So I had used the actual number that today about 35% of the guests choose the mobility, right, and the mobile check-in. That is going to continue to increase as the guests become the Generation Z or the Generation Z group, right? The younger folks, they do everything mobile, right? So for sure, the use of the mobile applications within the hospitality industry is going to continue to grow, and that really goes back to the technology partners that the hotels choose. They really have to have the mobility always at the top of line, right? They have to be able to make sure that they're going to be able to put the software in the hands of guests to do as much of that self-service as they want. The in-room access to personal accounts, whether or not that's movies or music. Whenever you check in that guest, it is common that we send, of course, the guest name to the TV, but there is going to be a time that that in-room entertainment can be focused on movies that the guest wants, or the types of movies or the types of music that guest wants. So all of that is around the guest and the experience. The AI, that's an interesting topic. We have gone down the path a lot of the AI and the analytics. We've done quite a bit of work on machine and learning, right? And that goes back to the example of Michelle liking the donuts, right? If I know something about her, I'm going to be able to actually use that, right? And I think the majority of hotels who have the loyalty, who have that frequent guest program, they've done a really good job at being able to determine the value and know the actual guest, right? It's now time to take it to the one step further of trying to find something that the guest doesn't know that they like, right? And you offer them that. That's really that artificial intelligence to come up with a way of being able to surprise and delight the guest. Oh, I didn't really know I actually wanted that, but I'm going to take now advantage of that. And of course, automation and the journey, whether or not that's the online booking or the check-in or the checkout or self-service and the service and requests. The mobility piece, it's here to stay. It's not a fad. It's not going to go away like the fax a machine did. Okay, and it really is. It's here to stay. That's for sure.
Yeah, so I want to second some of the stuff that David mentioned that I'm pretty passionate about myself. I mean, the use of AI and analytics to deliver that personal experience, as he mentioned, it's just going to continue to grow, and the demand for it in our industry is going to continue to increase. I think the word is predict. How can we better predict buying habits of our guests, David, to your point, before they even know, and and customize those buying habits and personalize them, the experience for those travelers that they're going to continue to expect. It's common in many other industries and, expanding rapidly in the hospitality world. So, completely agree there. And talking about automation and the seamless guest journey, I think, David, you touched on the digital world. More is more for our customers, right? They want information faster. They expect more of an intuitive experience. They want to feel special from the moment they log on and interact with us. And that goes back to, the learning and the predicting as well. They look for an experience. They're not just looking for a hotel room. They're looking for an experience. And smart and efficient digital solutions will allow us to create that high touch customer experience. As we wrap on this, I think we're going to go into Q&A next, Michelle. I don't know if now's a good point to wrap on this, but I just had one thing I wanted to say, and I don't know what our next slide is.
Feel free to do that. We are going to move into Q&A here now.
Oh, okay. So. Yeah. Before we do that, I want to thank both Michelle and David for allowing me to share the spotlight with you two, as well as you sharing your experience with all of us. It's been great to be part of such an industry-specific discussion around travel, hospitality, and my passion around technology. And hopefully others have found this as valuable as I have. When I think about technology in the future of our industry, this is an extremely exciting opportunity for me.
Thanks, Phil. We're happy to have you here at Certify, and I think it's always great when we have people, that have a ton of industry experience, but also when people come from other industries and bring their knowledge to us, because I think it helps us to create a greater and more fulfilling journey for our customers and our guests. So we want to thank you all. We want to take a look at the questions now and see if you have any questions, and we can address those. The other thing I would say, as you may be putting questions in, is if any of you would like to put into the chat some predictions you may have, or something that you see coming in the future as we, embark and continue to grow in this digital world, that would be awesome.
Yes, I was going to jump in too, to say, yeah, feel free to use the chat feature, or if you want, you can use the Q&A tab also.
Oh, right. Thanks, Barb. You got to keep me honest.
And it looks like we do have a question in the question answer tab, which is, in your personal experience as a customer, what's the one thing you felt was missing from your experience?
That's a great question.
Yeah,
I think you want to go first, Phil?
no, go ahead, Michelle.
No, you go.
Well, I was saying, I have to think about that. Just, getting back to traveling again more recently after doing a lot of traveling, before the pandemic. And, again, it really goes back to what we talked about predictability. I don't feel like a whole lot has changed in 2 years, and thinking about how other industries have changed and excelled over the last 2 or 3 years. The experience still feels very much the way it was before. So a lot of these things that we talked about today, and a lot of the stuff that David specifically talked about, from the more digital experience, I'm not seeing it as much as I thought I would, as things should have excelled from a technology perspective over the last 3 years.
Yeah, I think, from our side, from Infor Hospitality side, I think the hotels have done a good job at, using the online booking tools and the check-ins and the checkouts and all that stuff. And those are the things that we had actually talked about here, right? What we are now going to kind of pivot and move our focus on is to interact more with the sales and catering applications that we have. I'm sure all of us have experienced of being in a meeting room that the air conditioning was way too cold or it was way too hot, right? And we just want the ability for that convention person or that meeting or organizer to be able to pick up their mobile device as well and interact with the catering teams and the sales teams to be able to manage the experience, not so much on the hotel side, but more focused on the convention space and the meeting room space, and all that. I think that's something that we will certainly focus on from the Infor side as well.
Yeah, and I think that continued adoption of those technologies that we are seeing out there will be exciting.
Yep.
For me personally, what I want is, when I travel for business, I want the ability, if I have 1 hour free, to go to the spa. And I want to know that, hey, maybe I could get that spa treatment at this time. So sometimes, when I am at a property or at a conference, I'm looking for, I have that hour, what could I do as something for self-care? So I think that that's something that sometimes that is delivered very well. And I'll actually get information delivered to me mobily that says, hey, you could book a spa appointment today. We have openings. Did you know that? That's really great. I think the other thing that I look for, and many times it is delivered, I might be one of the fewer people who traveled throughout COVID due to some family commitments. But United actually, obviously I didn't requalify for gold, but they said, they sent me a note and said, you traveled so much. We appreciate that. We're going to automatically keep you at gold. So that was really great. And they probably did that for everybody, but I felt special. So again, when we talk about that experience and the journey that you have, I think that that's what we're all looking for.
Hey, you know what else is nice, Michelle, and some, booking some of those events like spa treatments or whatever, is being able to just step out of your conference make a phone call and them say, yep, we got it, we can book it for you. We've already got an authorization here for you, and you don't have to, you know, take time to pull out your credit card and go through all of that manual effort. So, you know, I'm seeing a lot more of that, and that's exciting, right?
Yeah. Barb, were there other questions?
Yes, we have several other questions. I'll kind of hop around through them, but one of them was I'm from a country club, and though it wasn't specifically mentioned for clubs, that they felt that there were a lot of good points here that clubs should consider for member experience as well as for guest non-member using the facility. So not really a question, just like how with inside the club industry, how could they also adopt some of these,
Yeah.
you know, touch points too?
That's great. We actually work with like PGA events. And so we do some forms and contracts and payments for them. You know, I think it's really important when you come to a club and you're a guest at a club for sure, that you have that ability to kind of maybe pre-authorize your experiences, right? So that when I get there, I feel just like the member, you know, so there are definitely opportunities to use digital forms in that way. As I think you commented, David, the ability to add on or enhance an experience, the ability to ask them to opt in to any messaging, maybe to increase your membership. I don't know if you have anything else you would add, David.
No, I think, you know, as long as you kind of know what the guest wants, you can offer that. There is a question on here that is pretty interesting. It's how can we take a step further to find information and offers that guests don't know about, right? So that goes back. A very simple example could be, we do some of it. It's a little bit of that profiling, right? If I know that, you know, 60% of my gold guests like X, like you know, something, right? You could do the analysis of that and say, okay, there's a likelihood. So if a gold guest has not purchased that, even though they have not purchased that in the past and it's not there on their profile, because like people have also used that actual service, they may like it. Probably Amazon does that the best, right? Even though, you know, you are buying books and you wouldn't like that, but people who have bought this same book also like this, you know. I hate to use the word profiling, but that's really, you know, some of the things that you could do to determine, if I don't know too much about this person, well, what do other guests like this person want, right? And kind of offer it that way.
Great.
Let's see, we do have just one more question, but we are at the top of the hour. What is the most innovative digital solution we can look forward to in terms of personalization? Innovative digital solution.
Yeah, I think this is a really good question. I mean, I think when you think about personalization and everything that David just talked about as well, you know, the machine learning, the artificial intelligence, and thinking about the future of personalization, I really think it's all of those things all wrapped up into one, right? How can we continue to personalize the digital solution? And I know this doesn't specifically answer the question, but you know, that predictability of that machine learning to create that personalized experience, it's just going to continue to get better and better, right?
Right. Yeah, and it's, you know, it's interesting that, you know, the AI piece is really interesting. You know, we've had, you know, hotels that have hotels in many different cities. And they are awaiting a guest, or they have gone through and they've asked the guests to put in their flight numbers, you know, so they actually know exactly when that guest then is coming in. But there's a snowstorm in that specific city and they know that the guest is not going to make it. Geez, wouldn't it be great if that hotel chain said, oh, we have a hotel in the city that you are coming from, and we have secured a hotel room at our hotel in that city for you, knowing you won't be able to land in the city that you are coming to. That would be something that would be truly kind of AI, where, oh my goodness, I didn't even know this, right? You are really anticipating my next need, right? In a time that I'm going to be stranded perhaps at an airport, right? That would really blow my socks off if a hotel company had had that type of thing. And it could be done. It takes some work, but it could be done.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, so we are at the top of
Good.
the hour. I was just wondering if there are any other last comments. Also, did you want to go forward and put your contact information so that for
Sure.
those who still have questions, they can reach out to you also?
Absolutely. So I believe that we will be sending every attendee and registrant a copy of the webinar recording. Our information is here as well if you'd like to reach out to any of us. And we love to collaborate. Any feedback you have on how we can make future sessions better is also always welcome. So thanks again, HTFP, for hosting us. We really appreciate it.
Sure. Okay, and
HFTP, sorry. I had a moment.
I understand. That's right.
The whole thing, Michelle.
Over.
We'll do it over. That's right. Anyway, I do want to thank you, Michelle, David, and Phil, for giving us this presentation today, and also for Certify for sponsoring today's webinar. I also want to say that Certify does offer other webinars that you can also earn continuing education credits, and it has to do with everything in hospitality and travel. So you can go to their website to find that information. The HFTP annual convention is scheduled for September 14th through the 16th at the Austin Hilton in Austin, Texas, and we are celebrating 70 years as an association, and we hope that you are attending. And also, for those of you who are collecting continuing education credits, please note that you will need to self-report them to HFTP on the certification tracking spreadsheet. It is found at the bottom of the virtual education webpage. Along with tomorrow, everybody who attended and answered the 3 poll questions will receive an email with the continuing education credit certificate. So please save that email for your records if you need to submit those for CPA or other association credits. So with that, we will conclude today's broadcast. And thank you very much for attending, and have a great rest of your day.